Something is happening in the Cardano ecosystem right now that as an investor, you should be aware of. Why has the price gone from $3 down to now under $1 in a straight line? Two reasons, in my opinion. First is macro. No one has any control over that. The second is specific to the Cardano ecosystem with something called ISOs, or initial stake pool offerings. Definitely a negative impact on the price, in my opinion. And I want to explain why in this video, why I'm not worried about it, but why definitely there is a negative impact overall. So I'm going to go over that in this video. Just as some context to the Cardano price, the entire crypto space is in a technical bear market right now. Okay, so that means just by the price coming off the highs, it is called a bear market. I don't get into bull and bear in terms of subjective calls. It just is a technical bear right now. When Bitcoin is down 7% in the last week, it is almost impossible for the big alts to actually be up unless they have something wildly specific that is so amazing for them. ETH is down 5%, Cardano down 6.7%, actually, the same as Bitcoin. Now, what you're seeing is that actually we're just getting a little mini recovery now, which is great. And this is because the macro, is clearing up. We're not going to get into that in this video, but why is Solana and Terra and a couple of others actually, bumping more than ADA? So that is really the ISO point that I'm trying to make in this video. So look, what we've seen right here from the highs is what we call a descending wedge. This is a technical chart pattern that is very bearish, and you're just seeing every time the price comes up, it gets knocked off the resistance and down lower. What we're seeing actually though, is basically we're going to come to a point now where the price will have to break out of this. Will it go down or up? I believe that is more on the macro and what Bitcoin is doing rather than specifically for Cardano. But why is the price falling considering we've got these applications launching and this TVL coming on? Isn't it supposed to go up when this happens? Isn't this a positive thing? Yes. But I believe obviously the macro and also specifically ISOs are having a negative impact on this. So before we get into ISOs, just a quick update. For course members, I'm adding about 10 to 15 new videos to the crypto course for you guys. That is completely for free. If you want to get involved, I'll leave the link in the description, or just come over to the Discord group. I'll leave that in the pinned comment as well. You can come and chat with all the groups there. Over 150 videos, and I do add new videos over time for free for everyone that's in the course. So that will be coming next month in March, the next update. But what I want to do is come over to ISOs versus ICOs and why we are having an issue with this in the Cardano ecosystem right now. I quickly want to kind of compare these. So what is an ICO? It's an initial coin offering. This happened on the Ethereum ecosystem, and this is essentially, very simply, when a company raises money. It's called an initial coin offering, but if you've ever traded stocks or invested in stock markets, this is when a project or a company sells an equity stake in their business for cash. This is exactly what an ICO is as well. So an initial coin offering is when you get an investor, and what they do now on the ETH ecosystem, this could be another one as well, but what they do is obviously they buy ETH, and what they do is they give that to the project. The project then has this ETH, and what they do is sell ETH for US dollars or some sort of fiat currency, and then they give a new coin to the investor, right? So the investor, and this could be, this could be ABC coin, right? Whatever it is, it doesn't matter. It's the coin of the project, and all it is a fractional ownership in the project. It's exactly the same as selling an equity for cash, and that is why the SEC has come out and said, if you have ever done an ICO, you are a security and you have to register with us and follow securities regulations. This is costly in terms of time, manpower, expertise, and money, and no project wants to do this. The reason why a lot of projects got away with this in 2017 is because it was a much smaller industry back then, and to be honest, they just went ahead and did it anyway, and the consequences came after. The really important thing to note here is that the SEC has caught onto this, and basically you can't really do ICOs anymore in the States. You can do it in other countries if the securities regulation is different, but it just so happens that Sunday Swap, who have gone through with this ISO and other ones, they're US based and they want to have US investors. So the important thing to know is that for the most part with an ICO, it's a very simple case of one person buying ETH, giving it to the project, and then the project selling ETH. So what you would have more or less is a net zero position of ETH, right? So positive, minus, it's probably net zero. Now, most people are going to buy new ETH to give to the project, and then they sell ETH, and that's a net zero position. There may be some people who had ETH already, in their wallets, and they maybe invest some and get this new token. And so what you could say is there might be a slight negative price on the ETH, right? So that net demand may not be perfectly zero. But for the most part, you would assume that people that have ETH are probably going to buy more ETH to invest in the project rather than using their ETH, because ETH is still exposure to that ecosystem that they probably want. So obviously there's, nothing is a perfect correlation, but that is how an ICO works. Now, an ISO is very different. So with an ICO, you're buying ETH, spending ETH, and then the project is probably selling that ETH for dollars to fund their project. It's a very different demand characteristic than ISOs. So there's definitely differences here. But essentially what you're doing with an ISO is, because it's very different with Cardano. Cardano has staking, whereas, ETH is still proof of work. Back in the day, there were no emissions, so you couldn't do this. But for Cardano, essentially what happens is that stake pool operators and stake pools earn, rewards for running the stake pool. So the first thing that you actually get is about 4 to 5% in ADA rewards. And that is proof of stake rewards. So that's something that just gets passed through to stakers, delegators like you and I that delegate ADA over. There's also an amount in ADA, let's just call it $1 or something to make it easy, right? In fees. And this is important, because what happens is that these fees get paid to the stake pool operator or part of them. Now, this is important because what an ISO does, and you can see this here, is you can see this is Sunday swaps, and they're saying we're using a new and innovative funding mechanism. They're trying to circumvent securities regulations. Okay, so they think they're very clever doing this. Is this still a securities offering? I think the SEC will probably have to think so, but that's for the future. The real big difference here is, you can see we will raise the block minting reward fee to 50 to 100%. Now, usually a stake pool operator will charge around 1.5%, maybe something like that, as a fee for operating the stake pool. Sunday Swap and these delegators are taking these fees and taking basically 100%, or between 50 and 100%, and putting it in their own their own wallet. This is very different. Now, what are Sunday doing? Like it says on their website, they are funding their project. What does that actually mean? They're taking ADA, all of the ADA that they're getting in fees, and they're selling it for USD. Why do they want to do that? Because they're funding their project. There's two things you can do. The first thing is to have US dollars to fund further development for the future. The second thing is to cash out some of your winnings, right? They've created a business, and some of that may be going towards paying their wages, which is fair enough, right? I'm not saying that this is bad. We all need to make money. You can't just develop all these things for free, right? So this is what projects need. They need funding. This is why ICOs exist. This is why ISOs exist. ISO is different for ADA because of the way the blockchain is set up. They're trying to get around securities regulations. Why is this important? Well, basically, if you think about it, usually what happens is that a stake pool is someone who's running a stake pool on the ADA ecosystem, and they're probably pro ADA. What I mean by this is, when you have a Bitcoin miner, Bitcoin miners mine Bitcoin, and what they're doing now is actually listing on the stock market and selling equity in their business to raise money. They don't want to sell Bitcoin. Bitcoin miners do not want to sell Bitcoin. If you're a Bitcoin miner, you probably believe in Bitcoin and therefore want to mine Bitcoin and keep all of that Bitcoin as an asset that will grow over time. Same for ADA, right? The same principle. If you are running an ADA stake pool, you're probably pro ADA, and that means you want to hold as much ADA as you can. Also, you're only charging 1.5% to run your pool anyway. But this is different. Essentially, what you're getting is some of the emissions of ADA and some of the fees of ADA, right, are going to Sunday, and they're selling it straight for USD. I'm not singling out Sunday here. There are others that are doing this, but I just want to explain this, right? So rather than before, you may have some of that ADA pretty much going to stake pool operators that wouldn't sell it or would sell only a small part of it to fund their operations and probably keep as much as they can, or the fees going to the treasury or wherever they would go. You're just getting more of the ADA going to someone, a party that basically is selling it out to fund their operation. Why is this important versus an ICO? Well, an ICO, I would assume, would have a slightly better net zero position where people that invest and sell need to first buy the ETH. So it would be a net zero. I think what you're seeing here is a more of a negative ADA position, whereas a lot of the ADA that would otherwise not be sold onto the market is actually being sold onto the market to fund these projects. And is that a negative thing? It just is what it is. I think it is negative for the price short term, but these projects have to fund themselves, and they're doing it by collecting ADA and selling ADA onto the market. And when they stop doing that, then that will obviously be some demand or sell side liquidity taken away. They are going to stop doing it, and it's a negative impact right now. Like I said, I'm not singling out Sunday swap here. I think it's a slightly, maybe naive way of doing things. What they are trying to do is circumvent securities regulation. What they are also doing is putting extra downward pressure and selling pressure on the price of ADA that may not have come about if they did an ICO where people bought ADA to invest and then get the new coin. But like I said, securities regulation pretty much makes this much of a no-go these days. So what we can also see, it's not just Sunday, like I said, you also have Meld, another very promising project, and you can see they are doing an ISPO as well. The initial stake pool offering is full. What they did is took pretty much 100% of the fees that were paid throughout, in their stake pools. Now, what are they doing? They're funding their project. That means that they're taking ADA and selling it. Now, are they selling all of the ADA? They may be keeping a lot of the ADA as well. They may want ADA because of liquidity purposes. They may need, a big chunk of ADA to actually get liquidity onto their own platform and provide that liquidity. So definitely they won't be selling 100% maybe, but there is liquidity from fairly large players that are actually just dumping this on the market because they want dollars to fund their own operations. You can't have ADA because it's a risk asset, and so you don't know what it's going to be worth in the future, right? So you can't take a risk position when you're doing this. Same for Cardano, same thing, highly anticipated ISPO. Please be aware that what's happening right now is you're getting a bunch of applications, and they're quite large. They are taking ADA from the system and selling it on the market, whereas that ADA without this ISPO would probably not be sold, at least a big chunk of it. Nothing is absolute here, but just talking about percentages and where this selling is coming from. Absolutely, these applications are taking ADA and selling it on the market to fund their applications, which just has to be done from their point of view. But please understand that if you're in ADA, this is what's happening right now. Now, of course, there is an upside to this as well, not just a downside. If you participate in the ISOs, you are getting new tokens as well in these applications, whether it's Meld or Cardano or Sunday, you're getting new tokens. So you have to balance this out. Undoubtedly, these projects are creating quite heavy selling pressure for ADA that would otherwise possibly not be there. On the flip side, you as an investor, if you're doing this with your ADA, you're getting these new tokens as well. So that means you're getting extra tokens, extra value with these new tokens. And also, potentially you can either sell those or, potentially just hold them over time. So please be aware that this is something that will affect the price of ADA, in my opinion. The amount that ADA is falling right now is pretty much in the ballpark of every other altcoin. Altcoins aren't doing very well right now, and Bitcoin is down. We are in a bear market, and that's the way it is. Hopefully this explains some of the individual and specific things in the Cardano ecosystem that is affecting price as well. I believe this is a negative on the price of ADA short term, but it will also not be here over the long term. And once all of this works through, it's essentially just a focus on all of the TVL that's coming on and actually what these applications do. But you know what Cardano is like? It's not VC, and they do things in their own way, which is slow and frustrating for most of us, but that is what they do. Anyway, if you want to join the Discord community, I'll pin that as a comment below. And if you want to join the Crypto Investor course, I've got a bunch of new videos coming up. If you're in the course already, they will be absolutely free for you guys. I'm James with MoneyZG. Cheers for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.